I need like one of those cut.
Yeah, like marker.
Because I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're
Okay, when you see
one.
that, then you know to go.
We're group 1. This is week 5.
Yes.
Yeah, week 5.
Sweet.
Is it like halfway through? Whoa.
Alright, start our timer.
Okay, let's do this thing. So
All
how's
right.
it? Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So, what was everyone's biggest takeaway from the videos this week? I feel like we kind of already talked a little bit, but I think the videos are all really powerful this week, and I almost like they stood alone for me. Like, it was very, very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, something that like I got a lot out of the video, and that I even saw in my practicum today,
Oh, cool.
was the idea of like having the balanced classroom that we were mentioning earlier, but like having the cultures of your students, but then also having like the balance of American culture to like do the acculturation well. So today, my teacher, I found out, is fluent in Spanish because she spent time in Argentina, and so she would like every once in a while during class she would like give directions in Spanish, and I just was like, whoa, what? That's so cool! And like I felt like I didn't feel like I noticed that this Spanish-speaking students in the class kind of perked up when they saw that, heard that,
Yeah.
and I was just like,
That is really cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is really like I felt like they instantly felt like more included.
And welcome.
They
And
do.
more welcome,
Yeah,
for sure.
it was just so cool. It was like such a fun little moment. And like I went over to her and I was like, "You're fluent in Spanish? Oh, that's so cool!" I just like I flip out when people are. I'm such a language nerd. I love it.
Well, I feel like especially with this major, I think that totally comes with the title.
Yeah.
Like, it totally does. That's so powerful for our students,
Yeah.
where Spanish might be their first language.
And there's a lot of them in the class. There's like it's like my class is so diverse, and like there's all these different languages and everything, but Spanish is the most spoken of the non-English languages in the class, so it was a really cool moment. So that's kind of like the connection I made of like having that balance in the classroom, but then also she does do the majority of things in English, so they are learning that a lot, and that's like what my main buddy student is focusing on right now. So, what about y'all?
It's also like in our practicum with like Crystal and I shouldn't say names, sorry. Other students, they just get excited when you speak Spanish.
I can't speak Spanish, but hey.
Just anything,
Yeah.
Just, they just love it because it's like they recognize that this is part of me, and what I mean.
It must feel like really respectful to them, you know, like wow, you respect my language enough and you respect me enough to
Include it.
yeah, like wow, you really do care about me as not just a student but as a person too. You know?
No.
I
So
know
powerful.
They probably don't like think of that exact thought in first grade, but they'll think about it later, or maybe they do think about it.
I think, they definitely will have those moments where it's like, oh my goodness, like that's special. Like, I understand that. And, like, they know that other students in class aren't going to be able to understand that when she's speaking in Spanish. And so it's definitely, I feel like that'd be a personal connection. It's like, that's for me. Like,
Yeah.
that's probably why she perked up.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, my teacher is like me, so it's like a way to relate to the teacher too,
Definitely.
which is so important,
And especially if they go home like telling their parents like, yeah, my teacher told me like was talking to me in Spanish, yada yada yada. It's like the parents might feel validated.
and more willing to come
Like,
into the
communicate.
classroom too.
Yeah.
Like that, I had one of the questions about including parents in the classroom community. That would be such a huge way.
Yeah. Totally.
It made you feel so welcome because, like, what is it? There's always some parents, if they have English language learners or multilingual students, if they come home and they say they're using their native language, they're like, no, you need to be using English.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's also
That's
like
very
a big controversy too. So if you can kind of like fight that like mindset of we need to be developing both languages, that's really critical. And so the teacher can do that, and they're going home and talking about, oh yeah, we gave directions all in Spanish today, and I knew everything. It was awesome. Like that kind of like lets the parents know, like, oh, they're validating both languages. Like that's really powerful. It definitely could lead to like better community engagement.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So, is there any other discussions, like any big things else Can't talk today. Any other big things that y'all got out of the video before I move on to another topic?
Yeah, there are lots of things. Like, I just, the part in the video where they were talking about how their the Cambodian one.
Yeah.
When they were talking about how, like, the student couldn't really talk to the parents.
Yeah.
The parents couldn't really talk to the students. I was like, whoa, I never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
You know, because I always thought that, like, even when we're at our practicum and we're talking to our students and we're talking about, like, what is your language at home? What do you speak with your parents? What do you speak with your friends on the street with you? Like, and they're saying, I always speak Muzteca, or what is it called? Mizteco and stuff, and like, and they can talk to their parents. And one student even said something like, I don't speak it that well.
Mm-hmm. That was my student.
No, my.
No, that's very similar with our students then. Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I'm supposed to tell you.
Mixteco?
It's like a version of Spanish.
Oh, okay, I've never heard that term.
Yeah.
Mestizo?
I don't know.
I've heard both.
That's how they were saying it.
Fucking awesome.
And so I guess I don't know. That's the most authentic way to say it.
But like you said about another student, like
She was saying that she didn't really speak that well, and I didn't understand that at the time. But after watching this video, I'm thinking maybe that she really can't speak.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know all the vocabulary in that language, and she can't speak as well to her parents in that language as she can speak to English to me, which is really interesting. She's in the 4th grade.
no, I had a very similar experience, like that resonated with me, very similar. Another one of our group of students, there's only 4, so it's kind of, yes.
Hey.
I was having a very similar experience because her mom speaks Spanish only. Her English is very, very, very limited. And so it's like, oh, do you speak your mom in Spanish or in English? And she's like, I try in Spanish, but I'm definitely not good. And I was like, that's so disheartening. And then she's like, my mom doesn't know almost any English. It's very, very, very loose. Like, she was like very small, the English that she knows. And so her dad can communicate with mom, but dad also knows English and Spanish.
Oh, so.
And so it's there's a very
That's
good,
just like really hard for your home life.
Yeah.
Because the students in the video were talking about how, like, if something happened at school, like if something bad was happening, they couldn't even talk to their parents about it.
That part, like the
Like,
part
that's
with,
just so
with
difficult.
Jory, I think the
Yeah.
video. When he was talking about when he was in 5th grade and got in that fight with the little girl. She
yeah.
had her mom backing her up, and the poor little guy was in the office alone.
Yeah, I talked about that.
Yeah. I remember seeing that. It was
That
terrible.
just broke my heart. I'm like, why could they not see that there's this poor little guy in there all alone, having to face like a parent and the faculty? That's so.
And there's like a
intimidating.
security guard in there.
Yeah, for a grader, and like it's just like
Yeah.
that just. Oh, I was so mad. I wanted to like give that poor kid a hug, you know?
Well, especially because like you could tell that it really emotionally shook him, even though he was looking back on the moment.
Yeah.
Like it was that unforgettable.
Yeah.
Which just is like, to me, it's like that's even worse.
Exactly. That he'll never forget.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can even compare it to a personal experience where I just had a parent, like, get mad at me when I had an argument with one of their kids. And it was just a parent wasn't a police officer and the faculty
Yeah.
and
you're
all
in
these
5th grade.
things.
Yeah. And you're a little 5th grader just
Yeah.
trying to make your way in the world.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah, and like that really shook me when I was in the 6th grade and a parent like yelled at me about an argument, and I was like, I went home crying and like, and like, but that wasn't. I could even talk to my mom about that, like, and I don't feel like he could even like talk to his parents about that instant. Did he? I think he said in the video that he didn't talk to his parents
He couldn't.
Yeah.
There was
about it at all, and like that would just be awful.
Yeah, like, because I think, like, I have, like, this crazy close relationship with my mom. She's, like, my best friend, and I tell her everything. Like, feels like I talk to her every single night, and, like, so when I heard that they couldn't talk to their parents about school, I was just like...
Did it break you down?
It did. I was, like, I had, like, pause the video and be like, oh, my gosh, that's such a weird concept to me to not have that parent support that I always had. Because that's, like, that's how I got through so much of school. Like,
Yeah.
Especially, like, I moved around a lot as a kid, and so, like, when I didn't have any friends, of course, like, my family was who I, like, relied on.
Yeah.
And, like, a lot of English language learning students, they move around a lot.
Yeah.
And so, imagine not having any friends at school, not really speaking the language very well, and then not having that support at home.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, it's like so much pressure on these poor kids. I'm like,
So much pressure.
But it's also like not to like twist anything you just said, but just that like because I feel like the kids are still very supported. It's just they can't verbally express it. It's more through actions, which was like
your post. Your post is what you did.
And like because I was saying like in that aspect, I really connected with like the Cambodian students. Like I really did because the love language for them was like I'm working my ass off for you. Like this is how I show that I love you. Like the food you're eating, I did that, you know? And that's how you it's not, I love you, sweetie, have a good day. It's just like, you know, that sense of feeling that, exactly, you know? Or like I'm working all the time so that you can get an education.
Yeah, so you can go to school,
you know,
you're talking
and all
about
those things. And instead of, you know, I love you, blah, 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 blah. So,
yeah, I'm really glad that they put in that thing about the love languages, because like, I will be honest, when I was watching the video, I'm just like, wow, this is so rough for these poor kids and everything. But then when they kind of like redeemed, like not that the parents really needed redeeming, but like I felt like they kind of like emotionally redeemed the parents when they were talking about the love languages and like how like I'm so used to growing up in a culture where like we say I love you, we hug each other, we give compliments, we reward, we encourage, all that stuff. And so it's just kind of like that's another thing of like learning about different cultures is how they express love and everything. So
or how like you're greeting each other, how you talked about in your post.
About what?
How you greet like each other in Japanese. I thought that was a very good connection.
Oh, thanks. Like I was like learning about that where you don't like it's kind
customs.
Like about you don't really address someone as you. Like that's too direct, too interrogating. You kind of more use names and everything. So
it's
like
more personable.
Exactly.
Sure.
So
and also I know some like I don't think all Spanish is like this, but I know in some like specific Spanish cultures out of like the whole like use like terms of endearment like fatty, you know, like that's like a term of endearment. It's not that they're saying like you're literally like fat and blah blah blah. It's just like, you know, come here gorda, like come here like that one, like, you know, and it's just like a nickname term of endearment, like
or cabbage,
you know.
In
it's you know.
I've never heard that.
I've never heard that before.
It's not that or they'll like be like skinny or you know, and it's not that it's like you know, it's not like necessarily like I love you sort of term of endearment, but like
I'm giving you
that meaning
like
is there. That heart is there. It's just it's not expressed in the same way that
we would take it.
Would,
you know, if somebody was like, "Come here, fatty," I'd be like, "Oh hell no." You know? So, but it's different for different. You know what I mean? It's just kind of how you've been raised.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
If I was raised with that too, you know, I'd be like, "Oh, she called me fat," you know?
Yeah, it wouldn't cross your mind that that's different.
Exactly.
Like that's like what this is like. That's where I always have those moments. Is like that's different for other people. It's like that's when I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because you never, I don't know, just like. The only thing I remember about, especially about cultures like explicitly, is in high school. I know we did a whole project about like your culture. And we brought in artifacts. And we talked about it.
That's cool.
But that was like a 2-week thing, and then I don't know where else it was brought up.
Oh.
So it wasn't like
Yeah.
happened all the time. And so you never, unless you're really explicit about talking about that, you're not really going to pick up on those like fine tunes of another person's culture unless you really talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it definitely opens my eyes when it's like, you know what? Like that would be totally different for me if I perceived that.
Mm-hmm.
But for other people, that's completely like that's a great compliment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Opens your eyes.
Yeah. It's like it's so crazy and interesting how many different ways there are to interact with people around the world. It's just like how everybody has like their different ways of interacting.
And there's always new ones getting created.
Yeah.
Like that's
culture
what's
is
cool.
always
It's always changing and evolving.
culture's always evolving.
I don't think that's
This is why we're into that nature.
Cultural
studies.
That's
So cool.
So going away from the video, can you go off the videos?
No.
Are we going to stay on?
Go where you want to go. Fly, bird, fly.
Okay. So I was just thinking about like, acculturation, and like we've talked a lot in other classes about like assimilation versus acculturation.
Very true.
And I know a lot of people who are teachers or whatever that don't like the use of assimilation at all. And so, like, I've kind of, like, disregarded that. So, disregarding assimilation and just thinking about acculturation and, like, how some people see it differently. Like, some people can see acculturation as, like, a really negative thing or, like, a really positive thing. Like, I just wanted to know your views on it because I said in my post that I actually don't think acculturation is bad at all because these students live in this mainstream culture, and if they want a future here, they need to acculturate.
Yeah.
But there's also the fact that they are still taking their background and their language and they're bringing it with them.
Yeah, see, that's what I like about the term acculturation was, like, at least how I interpreted it, like, versus assimilation where you just have to completely change someone's culture.
Yeah.
Where I feel like acculturation is just more like a balance and merging almost. So you're not losing, you're gaining. That's kind of how I see
That's
it.
how I perceive it too.
Yeah. So like it kind of surprised me a little bit when you're saying that people see it negative. Yeah, like I wonder.
I just kind of got like a negative vibe from it this week for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're just like made you want to bring it out. That's very interesting. I think it's because like for a lot of things or like a lot of stereotypes here is that it's always acculturation first. That we should like acculturate to like the predominant white culture. I think that's where like that stereotype comes in.
But like if acculturation is done correctly, then it really is just balancing and like keeping the old while bringing in the new.
Yeah. So I think it's like the stereotype is viewed like it's very skewed. Is where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Because I think it definitely I agree, but it's a balance.
Yeah.
And it's a good balance because then you're developing both at once, and that's how it should be. You shouldn't have to lose a culture.
Yeah.
You should be gaining more of a culture, in my personal opinion. So
I was a little bit confused about the whole idea of essentializing. Like, I feel like I got what it was saying and I wrote right, but like, I didn't know if I totally grasped it. So like, what did y'all think about the essentializing section?
One sec, I want to say one more thing about the acculturation thing. I think no worries. That's a good segue. I just think though, like some people really feel like I did. I don't know if you guys have heard the Bridging Migrant Youth.
That seminar.
Yeah. So I volunteered there one time to make up for because I missed a day through Comes to Campus, and they're like, you can get your points back if you do that. So I did that. And there was an activity where they were like, if you view yourself as like Mexican, step forward.
Is it a step in, step out?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So step forward. If you view yourself as American, step forward. If you view yourself as Mexican American, step forward. And a lot of people could only, like one girl raised her hand, she was like, I don't think you can be Mexican American. She's like, you have to pick one. You have to pick one. And it's like, even if you're, like that's something that people think about because they think, okay, even though I come to America, like those kids who can't even speak in Spanish to their parents, like that has to be not quite degrading for them, but very belittling.
No, very true.
I'm supposed to be part of this, and I can't even talk to my mom in Spanish.
No, very true.
So I heard that like Hispanic community.
Exactly, and so I feel like for like in that aspect, they do feel like they're losing a lot,
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you guys were saying, it's also like you're also learning a lot and gaining a lot at the same time, which I don't think they realize until later once they grow up. Because right now it's easy for us to talk about it and be like, acculturation's so great, but if
in the process it's not so perfect.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Like very difficult. If you can't talk to your mom throughout your entire childhood, like that's definitely
going to
impact you and your understanding of acculturation.
Yeah, I feel like if you had people who are helping you acculturate in a good way,
positive,
it would be great. It's wonderful because you're able to, you feel like you're a part of the mainstream culture, but you also have this part of your identity, and you can speak the language and speak to your parents, and then when you're older, you can use that in a job, which is so I feel like some of our students don't realize like how awesome it is that they can speak.
How powerful.
And but if you don't have anyone like telling you keep your Mexican heritage
Yeah.
and your Spanish language, and they feel like they feel pressure that they have to only know English and develop their English and be part of that mainstream culture, then they're probably going to assimilate more than they are going to acculturate.
See, that's why, like, that's one of the reasons why I was so happy to hear my teacher speaking Spanish to these very young kids. Like,
Yeah.
I always emphasize, like, teach them early on. Teach kids these big ideas as early on as possible. So, like, they know from a very early age that keeping both your Spanish and your English language is very important and balancing that.
I just also think though, like, if you have a name like Jasenia, you know, you're always going to be like labeled as something, no matter how much you do acculturate with this main, you're always going to have that like stigma attached to you that she must know Spanish, she must be this color, she must this, she must that. And because of that like she'll feel like she can't acculturate because she's not Sarah with blonde hair and blue eyes.
No,
you know what I mean?
Very, very good point.
That's all I'm saying is that it's easy for us to acculturate, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And like talk about it, but
no, in the ideal,
you know, especially when our names are Chelsea and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just in like those aspects too, it's like just more difficult, I feel like.
Like in the overall scheme, if that's what we're going for, acculturation, perfect. The actual breakdown of the process and how like affected students and families are and everyone around them can be through that process, definitely. Like that should not be like belittled in any way. Like that would be a very difficult process.
Yeah, because even like my grandma, her actual name is like, I don't know how to say it, but it's like Beatrice, you know? But she changed it to Beatrice. So, as like, that's acculturating, you know what I mean?
You know, like I've done something similar with that because like, I would like to teach in Japan someday, so I picked, like, and I noticed that, I was like, oh, my name has an L in it. That's not always very easy for them to say.
Yes.
So I picked, like, a name that I would go by if I ever go and teach over there. So, like, I feel like that was kind of, like, my way of, like, acculturating, but also respecting their language and culture, too. Like, I don't want you to have to struggle with my name, you know? I want it to just be easy. Don't focus on my name. Just focus on, like, learning from me, you know? And teaching me.
No, that's a very great segue. I think that's a great segue into
essential.
Thank you.
Yeah, whatever it is.
You knew what I was going to say.
I. AI. It also means
just
love.
I.
Yeah, I. It means love.
That's how is it written? AI. AI.
Someone,
but just
they actually just go by I.
Yeah.
Someone would go by I.
I would go by I. I think that's so cute.
Yeah, it's like
What's up, I?
So
I just feel like it's so short for a name.
That's so cute.
So it's like it goes like.
That's a little shorter than Braylon.
I can write it in hiragana. I'm excited.
Like, would it be like I Dukas? How do you say your name, last name?
It'd be like pronouncing it in Japanese, it'd be like Dakasu, or Deikasu, but Deikas, yeah. And like you do like the last name first, and then your personal name. So it'd be Deikasu I.
Cute.
Yeah, it's fun.
I think that's cute.
It's just like I'm like, oh, I have a name in Japanese. That's so cool.
I can dig it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just like, oh, I love it. It's so fun.
Would they be weird? Like, does anyone else have the name I, which means love?
Yeah,
Like,
it's actually a pretty common name.
it is? Oh, okay. I'm just like, who names himself Love? I guess celebrity is named like chose an apple, but
yeah, but I mean like. I think that's just like a name, kind of like how like American names like
mean.
Yeah, can like mean something like so and so means noble maiden or something like that, you know, kind of something like that.
Yeah.
So back to your question.
Yeah, about essentializing, right?
Yeah.
I thought in your post you answered it fairly well.
Okay,
what was your question again?
It's like I was trying to understand exactly what essentializing meant, and like I feel like I understood it and answered it well in my answer. I was like, okay, I hope I got everything is right. Like I was getting a little confused.
Yeah.
Like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a thing that can be bad? Yeah, I was just a little confused on that. Yeah, I think it was
I went with bad. Is that where everyone else went?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. I kind of forgot.
It's like boxing students, like kind of what you just said. Like if you have a name like
Yeah.
that, you're going to assume all those things.
Oh yeah, that's what I wrote in my post. I think
And
I wrote
so,
all that in my post.
I'm pretty sure you did because
I
it
think
was
so.
very, very familiar.
yeah. I think
Or
I did.
you're talking about your uncle in your post
Oh yeah, that too.
and how they'll start assuming different things about him.
Yeah.
I assume that's very negative.
yeah, kind of like based like grouping people based on like stereotypes and everything.
That's
like,
kind of how I perceive it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understood it.
That yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Jasenia is this, and this. When really she might not know Spanish at all. She might not, this and this and this, but it's just these assumptions that come to your mind based on how they appear or what their
Or
name
just when
is,
you get a name, or when you know what kind of like maybe a cultural ethnic background they do come from. Like
Mhm.
And then like
Or you get a last name.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's
Yeah.
Santos, so they must this and this.
and they'll probably meet these sort of categories.
Yep.
I'll need to do this, this, and this.
Mhm.
But in
Also-
actuality, it might not be that at all.
Exactly.
I also feel like it just kind of goes for like groups.
Mm.
So like
Uh-huh.
if you like said, oh, I have a bunch of like Latinos, or I have like even like just saying like I have a bunch of Mexican kids,
Mhm.
like then you would think of like all these negative stereotypes.
Yeah.
I think like one thing also kind of came to mind was like it was this case study that I did a couple years ago, and I think it was like way back when I first started lecturing, but like it was where this teacher had a classroom that had a lot of Native American children in it, and they were very like social and interacting with each other and talking when he didn't want them to be talking with each other. And so like I was like, okay, but what if I started assuming that all Native American children learn that way? And so I just automatically assumed that when I had a Native American child that, oh, they probably want to talk to their friends all the time. They probably just want to always be talking and be social. And so do you think that would be a form of essentializing? Like just assuming that that's how they learn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like basically like a stereotype. And so like that stereotype, like even if it's not like widely known.
Mm-hmm.
Or just
like,
making
that's
a
what you're seeing.
generalization.
Yeah, very or an
Yeah.
assumption.
Yeah.
And very similar.
Yeah.
Because
Like assuming things even though you may not know the child and like that much at all. Or even if
and
you do know the child, you would still be assuming things.
exactly.
And that's equally just as disgusting,
Mm-hmm.
if not worse.
Because like one Native American child isn't like the representative for
Yeah.
how all Native American children live,
Yeah.
Because it's individual for what
Right,
works
like-
best for them.
There could be like a Native American child who's like very shy and doesn't want to talk to other
Exactly.
people.
Yeah, that's how I put it in my post. Was like it was like assuming the worst of someone
Yeah.
based off of like
The
visual
assumption.
traits or just like
Mm-hmm.
names that have been placed on them,
Yeah.
and instead of assuming like the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's a great like definition.
Yeah.
I think it's just like goes back to the whole thing like every child is different. No
Mhm.
matter what your cultural background is, like every child is going to be different.
Yeah.
And so I think I resonated that in my post. I was like, so I always capitalize those. All different.
All
Because I hate like those assumptions about teaching, like they're very prevalent.
Mhm.
And like they're like very widely known. And I think that's like pretty bad. Like not pretty bad, like it is bad.
Yeah.
And so it's like fighting those assumptions.
Yeah, and like I even feel like as teachers, like you may not even mean to do it, but like you almost have to kind of like fight your own thinking, kind of like looking at our ticker tape, you know,
Yeah.
while we're in the classroom, thinking like, oh, I just assume that this student because they are from this culture that they automatically are good at this or something like that, or they're automatically going to be disruptive or something like that. So like I think it's just like a good thing to always be aware of essentializing, you know, and just. Like I think maybe that's probably why we learned about the ticker tape thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what did you guys like take away from the ticker tape? Have you still been ticker taping? Does that
Yeah.
make any sense?
Yeah, like I still like to like listen to myself think, oh, why did I think that?
Mm-hmm.
It definitely makes you double check yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of like any examples off the top of my head.
Just generalization.
Yeah.
You've taken some things away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just nice to, I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of like pretty aware of my thinking just in general. Like I'm always just like, I don't know, kind of in my head. just
I get
da-da-da. So, yeah, I like it. I like the ticker tape.
I like
Good
how
stuff.
they put that too, like how like that little visual metaphor of the ticker tape, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been trying to, like I said, I've been trying to be aware of my ticker tape in the classroom. It's like, what do I assume about students? What do I think of the students? And then I also kind of think like, oh, what are they thinking of me right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True.
That's what I don't know if I ever talked about this. I can't remember what post it was or something where you're supposed to have like some sort of activity. Maybe this was like
Last week.
this was like in class, never mind. I swear I already talked about this, but like I was thinking of like a game where it's like I'm standing in front of the class and then they make assumptions about me and I can write them down. Like they're like, well, I bet you don't know what it's like to be raised in the ghetto. Like, I bet you don't, just looking at me, I bet you've never been in a fight. I bet you've never known what it's like to not live without your dad. I bet you, make all these assumptions about me based on how I look, how I appear, whatever. And then I could be like, well, actually, I do this, I do that, I do this, and then build, like, that connection with your students.
Yeah.
Like, although I may not be, like, from here or do this, like, I still... didn't have this, and
relate
I can
them.
still like have that connection.
I think that's very powerful. It'd be a very, very powerful teaching event. And it can lead to like really understanding what the lives of your students are too.
Yeah, exactly.
While also breaking down any stereotypes that they have about you.
me.
Because they know that they do.
Yeah, yeah.
I always find it interesting, like, I always try to pay attention to what my students are saying, like, or, like, the questions that my students ask me. Like, I've had a lot about, like, I wear my promise ring, and they're like, are you married? Do you have a kid? Do you have a boyfriend? They just, like, automatically assume that because I'm older than them, and I'm a woman, and that I'm a teacher, that I have to fit these roles.
Yeah.
Like, I have to, like, have these things about me, because a lot of teachers do.
Yeah.
But I just found that interesting. Like, I actually had a student today ask me if I had a kid. I was like, and then I was
Watch
like,
yourself.
I was like, no, I don't. He's like, well, then you can't go trick or treating. I was like, I want to go trick or treating. I was like, oh, okay, I won't go trick or treating then. Free candy. This is such an interesting like assumption that I was like, oh, I guess I am an adult here, aren't I?
That's hit me a couple times too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, I am an adult to you. Even though sometimes I don't feel like an adult as I'm 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then like it's always so funny when I'll mention that I'm into something that is mainly like normally meant for either someone of the opposite gender or someone who's younger. Like today, I bonded with a kid because we both like comics and superheroes.
Okay.
And I think this really like took the little boy by surprise. Like, you like Spider-Man? You like Deadpool? Whoa! And he was going around telling people. I was like, hey, she likes Deadpool.
Just opened his eyes.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I like Deadpool. I have
Because apparently girls can't like that.
Yeah, and like I have Spider-Man on my name
Or
tag.
teachers even.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was telling him about like graphic novels and stuff and comic books. He was getting so excited. Like, yes, graphic novels. So that was just kind of like I don't think he expected a lady teacher or adult person to be into comic books and stuff. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then obviously you made such a big connection with him that he was
Mhm.
walking around the classroom. Did you know that?
Do you know that Miss T is in the comics? She likes Deadpool. I like Deadpool too. And then like the little girls were saying that they like Deadpool and stuff. I was like, well, I don't know if you should really like Deadpool. He's a little inappropriate for first graders, but Spider-Man. I was like trying to promote Spider-Man. I was like, let's go for Spider-Man, okay, guys? It's a little bit friendlier than Deadpool.
That's so cute that you can make that connection.
Yeah, like this is a really cool little moment, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Such a cool kid.
You probably can't even read it.
No, but like,
In the first grade.
like, but he was like.
The idea of
It's like what he said too when I said like, yeah, it was in the comic books. And he's like, wait, these are books? Oh man, take me there. I was like, this child wants to read.
Yeah. And it's such a great way to get them like fascinated with reading, you know, like because those images are much different than Goldilocks and the Three Pigs, you know.
Yeah, the stories they've heard like over and over, and it's like little fairy tales versus superheroes.
Yeah.
And I always want to like go and find like the little like first grader books with like superheroes in it because there are them.
the easy
Yeah,
readers.
Yeah, the easy readers with superheroes. I'm like, okay, that's something you're interested in. Let's.
Read them a lot this
Yeah.
summer. I can tell you where to find them.
Oh, please do
The
actually.
library.
Okay, I'll be going there. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting all off track.
No, it
I
still
don't-
relates.
Yeah, it still relates. You're fine. Hey, don't fret. Don't say you're sorry. We enjoyed the conversation.
Little 10-cent fine. I said sorry.
Braylon tells you to pay up.
I wanted real money.
More and you have a whole $1.
Wait, what about?
I need 10 more, or 9 more and you have a whole $1.
Okay.
Well, are we done?
The first article that we read this week, it was like talking about culturally relevant sustaining technology.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that article.
Yeah. I think
Ah,
the
okay.
second one's more kind of friendly. I don't know. I kind of like the second one better.